The day I broke up with Zephaniah, he knelt in the rain for 3 hours, until I appeared before him hand in hand with my new partner. 3 years later, my brother's heart disease relapsed. As a heart specialist, Zephaniah Holloway was my only hope. He looked at me, gave a cold smile, and there was no trace of the warmth he once had in his eyes. Seraphina Whitlock, if you want me to help him, you can kneel down, beg me. I never imagined that my reunion with Zephaniah would be so awkward. I never thought he would speak to me so directly and ruthlessly. When I looked up and met his gaze, I could clearly sense the hatred in his eyes, unmasked and unyielding. After all, it was I who had cheated on him, perhaps because I was a bit dazed. He seemed annoyed and tapped the table lightly with his fingers, looking impatient. Seraphina, if you didn't hear me clearly, I can repeat myself. If you want me to help him. No problem, Seraphina, kneel down, beg me, just like 3 years ago when you begged me on your knees. The image of Zephaniah in agony 3 years ago flashed before my eyes like a movie scene. My hands clenched into fists, but despite wanting to resist, I understood my situation. Those wings that once longed for freedom had been ruthlessly broken by the grind of time. My life had never been my own from the start, so I could only bow my head and submit. As Zephaniah's expression grew dark, I knelt before him, mimicking his actions from 3 years ago. I begged him to help save my younger brother. My dignity crumbled in that instant. Trembling hands hidden in my sleeves, I endured in silence, enduring every insult he hurled at me. Enduring as my world slowly turned into a barren wasteland. The office fell silent, the clock on the wall ticking steadily. After a long time, he suddenly laughed. The laugh was sharp and piercing. My brows couldn't help but furrow. The office chair creaked. A pair of neatly polished leather shoes quickly appeared before my eyes. Seraphina, after all these years, have you forgotten? Or are you still unwilling to bow your head? Zephaniah mocked me from above, when asking for help. One should show some sincerity. With such a casual remark, why should I agree immediately and go save your brother? All I can do now is close my eyes, set aside my dignity, and humble myself like a tiny ant. Zephaniah, I truly regret what happened back then. As long as it makes you happy, no matter what you ask of me. As long as I can do it, I will do it. Please help me save my brother. He's still young, he shouldn't leave like this. He knelt down and gently lifted my chin with his cold fingers. But the smile on his lips made me feel uneasy. Sure enough, the next moment, he spoke to me without hesitation. Why not just do what you did 3 years ago with other men? Or maybe I'll let you sleep with me for free? How about that? What happened 3 years ago? Zephaniah and I were university classmates. He was a year older than me. Handsome and wealthy, a well-known figure on campus. We had promised to marry each other on graduation day, but in the end, I resolutely broke up with him. I truly don't understand why someone as outstanding as him would be so obsessed with me, willing to abandon his dignity and pride. To make me change my mind, he knelt in the rain for 3 hours. He was determined to walk this path with me, but he didn't know that once a girl decides to break up, all attempts to reconcile are futile. I didn't want him to bother me anymore, so I borrowed my roommate's boyfriend and appeared in front of Zephaniah holding hands with him. Then I told him a lie, claiming that we were already together. The rain washed his face pale, a memory that still haunts me to this day. When he heard those words, he seemed unable to face the truth. His body trembled, and his clenched fists pounded the cement ground. Blood slowly seeped from his body, but he seemed unaware of the pain, continuing to strike again and again. As if, in that dark night, I decided to ruthlessly shatter the heart that once loved you. Seraphina, you're so heartless. If I could, I'd cut open your heart with a scalpel to see if it's dark inside. From that day on, he left me decisively. He threatened that I would never see him again for the rest of my life. The deeper the love, the deeper the hatred. Seraphina, I'm truly disappointed in you. It has nothing to do with love. Someone like you doesn't deserve anyone's love. I was so foolish to have ever liked you. Zephaniah's words echoed endlessly in my mind. 3 years ago, I never could have imagined. That year, that moment, had become the recurring nightmare that tormented me for the past 3 years. I understood why Zephaniah hated me so much. He truly wanted us to have a happy ending. But life has its ups and downs, just like the moon waxes and wanes. Nothing in this world is perfect. My jaw was clenched tightly, the pain snapping me back to reality. His gaze was fixed on me, intense and focused. It seemed as though he was waiting for my response. Zephaniah, if you agree to save my brother, I will grant you any wish, anything at all. Zephaniah took off his work clothes and drove me to a five-star hotel. The hotel was quite nice. As soon as he got out of the car, a bellboy approached and politely took his car keys. I thought he would go to the front desk to check in, but instead he directly took me to a special executive elevator. The elevator rose instantly, silently dispelling the darkness. Then, the luxury of the city unfolded before my eyes. The mirrors in the elevator reflected my faded jeans and slightly worn canvas shoes, making me look rather pitiful and a bit amusing. I felt so out of place in this environment. The elevator finally stopped on the top floor, and the ding of the doorbell snapped me out of my thoughts. I followed him out. I should have realized long ago that we were never meant to be in the same world. He was the kind of person we all admired. He was the kind of person who had everything from the moment he was born, while I was so insignificant, like dust, that even living felt like a luxury. The hotel room door opened, and Zephaniah invited me to have a drink with him first. I was confused and didn't understand what he meant. He should know that my brother was still in the hospital waiting for him to help. Have some wine to liven things up. Wine can relax emotions. Otherwise, how could one feel any chemistry with someone they don't like? Also, I agreed to help your brother, but there's a condition. You have to make me happy. Right? The streetlights had just come on, and I stared at him blankly. I understood that the Zephaniah standing before me 3 years later was no longer the same young man. He harbored deep resentment toward me for leaving him back then, and he was ready to humiliate me in his own way, and he did just that. The atmosphere between us grew increasingly tense. And no one spoke. I don't know how long it took before I finally spoke. All right. The wine glass was firmly in my hand. The crimson liquid added a touch of color to the dark night. Zephaniah, sitting beside me, kept drinking as if drowning his sorrows. His expression looked lonely and desolate. Jessamine Pemberton suddenly appeared before us. She was holding a man's shirt in her hand. Zephaniah accidentally blocked me, so she didn't notice I was sitting on the sofa. Zephaniah, I saw a few nice shirts while shopping today. Considering you have an academic presentation in a few days, I specially bought them for you. Try them on and see if they fit. If they don't fit, I'll. When he saw me, his excited voice suddenly stopped. The smile that had been hanging on the corner of his mouth vanished the moment our eyes met. After 3 years apart, Jessamine recognized me immediately. I could clearly see the fleeting hostility and dislike in her eyes, but due to her good upbringing and Zephaniah's presence, she could only suppress those emotions for the moment. Serafina, what are you doing here? Zephaniah, what happened? Please tell me, why is she here? Didn't she go abroad? Zephaniah, don't forget how she treated you back then. Is she shamelessly coming here to reconcile with you? Zephaniah, leaning against the door, had a slight flush on his face. Unsure if it was from drinking or not wanting to bring up the past. He didn't say a word, remaining silent. Seeing him like this, Jessamine thought he agreed. So she threw her clothes on the sofa and walked toward me. Before I could react, she raised her hand and slapped me. The crisp sound broke the awkward silence between the three of us. It also shattered the last shred of dignity I had left. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I clenched my teeth to stop them from falling. Jessamine seemed unsatisfied, raising her hand again to strike me. Just as her hand was about to fall, Zephaniah had approached unnoticed, reaching out to stop her. Then I heard his cold, mechanical voice say, "Enough, I brought her here." As soon as he finished speaking, Jessamine looked shocked, her tone growing even more intense as she shouted at me. "Zephaniah, have you lost your mind? She betrayed you when she was with you, then left you ruthlessly to go abroad, and now you bring such a woman here. Zephaniah, don't forget that she almost cost you the chance to perform surgery. She nearly ruined your future. After everything we've been through, don't tell me you still can't let her go, or that you still care about her." The thought of leaving vanished instantly. I silently endured Jessamine's harsh accusations. I understood that this was exactly what I deserved. I never imagined that, after Zephaniah and I broke up, he went through such a difficult time. This wasn't the first time Zephaniah and I had broken up, but that day, I had truly made up my mind. This time, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, nor did I want him to find me. I left the city and took my younger brother to a distant foreign country. Starting a new life and settling down in a completely new city wasn't easy, especially in an unfamiliar place. However, fortunately, I was already an adult and had some skills. After a year of work, we gradually adapted to life abroad. In the midst of my busy life, I gradually learned to forget about Zephaniah. I thought time would make me forget everything. But I never expected that time wouldn't make Zephaniah forget me, it only made him care more about me. What he said that day wasn't true. He never forgot me. After getting soaked in the rain and coming home, he had a fever for 3 days and 3 nights. The next day, he drove recklessly, trying to vent his emotions. The heavy rain poured down, and the dark night made it impossible for him to see ahead. The flashing lights stung his eyes painfully. The car skidded and collided violently, leaving him severely injured. His ribs were broken, his fingers fractured, and his cornea was damaged, nearly causing him to lose his vision. He was rushed to the hospital and remained unconscious for an entire week. When he woke up, his eyes had lost all their luster. Even when his mother told him that his fingers were severely injured and he might never be able to hold a scalpel again, he remained expressionless, showing no emotion. His listless mood made him feel suffocated. He seemed like someone who had given up on himself. At that moment, he even wished he could disappear. Later, I received a call from abroad. There was no sound on the phone, only faint breathing. At that moment, I never thought it could be Zephaniah on the other end. Because I dared not think about it. I had made such a painful decision to give up on him. How could I possibly revisit that terrifying past? So, I eventually hung up the phone. Then I clung tightly to the darkness, desperately trying to fall asleep. After 3 years abroad, just as my career was beginning to improve, my younger brother was unexpectedly diagnosed with heart disease. The medical expenses abroad were too high, and we had no choice but to return home once again. After visiting the hospital several times, we finally heard a name from a few doctors. Zephaniah, what are you doing here now? Isn't life abroad good, Seraphina? You've been out of his life for 3 years. Why are you coming back now to disturb our peaceful life? Jessamine wanted me to disappear from her sight immediately. I didn't want to pay any attention to her hysterical crying. I just stared at Zephaniah with my red eyes. But when he saw my gaze, he seemed happy, as if all the pain he had endured in the past had nothing to do with him. The calmer he was, the more anxious I felt inside. I could feel my eyes getting hot, burning red. Then, tears suddenly fell, landing on the back of my hand, feeling especially hot. The heat made my heart ache, and I found it difficult to breathe. I lowered my head and refused to look over there. Jessamine was right. I shouldn't have shown up in front of him again. I didn't deserve to ask him to perform surgery on my brother. I had made his life so miserable. How could I expect him to forgive me and put everything aside to help me? I wanted to apologize to him, but I didn't know how to start. So I chose silence and stood up to leave. Just as I was about to step out the door, my wrist was suddenly grabbed by a pair of strong hands. I didn't dare to look up at him or meet his eyes, until he spoke softly in my ear, his voice calm and devoid of emotion. Seraphina, do I give you permission to leave? Now it's my decision. His voice was low, betraying nothing of his true feelings. 3 years had passed, and he had grown into an adult who seemed calm and knew how to hide his emotions. But the next moment, I noticed the veins on his arms slightly bulging. Jessamine, who gave you the right to speak to her here? Jessamine froze, not understanding what he was saying. The matters between her and me are none of your concern. Weren't you the one who sent her abroad in the first place? Upon hearing these words, Jessamine's expression grew even more unpleasant. I too looked at him in confusion. I wondered when he had found out about all this. He let go of my wrist, reached out his hand, and gently stroked my hair, just like he had 3 years ago. Even more, he gently wiped away the tears at the corner of my eye with his fingertips. When he looked at me again, the tender expression in his eyes made me feel a bit lost. As if I had been transported back to 3 years ago, when we were still together. Didn't I tell you that if something upsets you, you should tell me right away? Why do you always insist on bearing all the pressure yourself? His Adam's apple moved slightly. My voice was hoarse as I called his name, Zephaniah, but before I could finish, Jessamine interrupted me. Zephaniah, don't let her deceive you anymore, she's a liar. I'm the only one who truly cares about you. I made her leave because I didn't want her to hurt you anymore. Zephaniah, look at me. I've known you longer than she has, and I've been by your side all these years. Why can't you see anyone but her? Jessamine shouted, crying, trying to get his attention. But it had no effect. Please calm down. Zephaniah pulled me behind him. using his broad shoulders to shield me from the storm. Jessamine, our families have been old friends, but matters of the heart can't be forced. From the very beginning, I've made it clear that I can't marry you. And there's no future between us. I'm telling you this again today. Listen carefully. My name is Zephaniah, and I have no connection to you in this lifetime. Moreover, I'm not accustomed to having male friends. I hope you'll maintain a reasonable distance and avoid letting others misunderstand our relationship. Jessamine tried to explain, but seeing Zephaniah's cold gaze, she was too scared to say anything. I looked at him. His face showed no emotion, calm on the surface. But I knew this was actually his way of expressing anger. The temperature in the room dropped by 10 degrees, and it was so quiet that all we could hear was the sound of our breathing. After Jessamine left, the room was once again empty, just the two of us. Before I could recover from what had just happened, Zephaniah suddenly picked me up and threw me onto the sofa. I knew I shouldn't resist, so I could only silently accept everything, accept the pressure he was putting on me, and the revenge. But not long after, his tears silently began to flow. After a while, he seemed to have finally vented his emotions and stopped. The suffocating pressure on me vanished instantly, and I opened my eyes again to see his dark eyes suddenly appear before me. Serafina, what you owe me isn't something that can be repaid with just one night. He said this. He reached out his hand, revealing the scar on his forehead hidden by his hair. My breath caught in my throat, unable to imagine the pain and suffering hidden behind that scar. I dared not look at him, but the moment I shifted my gaze, he grabbed my chin, leaving me unable to move. Serafina, look closely. These scars are all you're doing. He laid it all out before me, yet he seemed calm, as if he weren't talking about his own pain. Open your eyes wide and look clearly. Isn't this ugly? Doesn't it make you feel afraid? But Serafina, have you ever considered that the person who abandoned me without mercy back then is far more repulsive to me than these physical scars? 1,000 times, 10,000 times more. When I woke up from the car accident, temporarily blind and with a broken hand, do you know what I was thinking? My shoulders trembled uncontrollably, and I wanted to scream for him to stop. But I found that my throat was like it was stuffed with cotton, and I couldn't say a single word. I wondered if Serafina had come to see me. My injuries were so severe. Did she feel heartbroken and want to come back to me? But reality kept disappointing me, making the love and affection I once felt for you seem so ridiculous and pathetic. Serafina, have you ever felt even a moment of heartache for me? The only response was endless tears. I reached out to touch the scar on his forehead, but he scoffed and slapped my hand away. He let his hair fall forward, and his expression grew calm again. It seemed like the person who had just asked me so directly wasn't him anymore. You go back first. I'll take care of your brother's illness, remember? I'll never forgive you in this lifetime. His voice remained calm, but when I heard those words, my face turned pale. I understood that from the moment he decided to reveal those scars to me without hiding them. Things had changed. There was no going back between us. The rest of my life would be spent bearing the guilt of what I had done to him. Zephaniah, I didn't betray you, and I have nothing to do with him. After he got up from me, I sat up. Hearing me say that, he paused for a moment while getting dressed, but quickly returned to normal. I know he's your roommate's boyfriend. From the first day I woke up from the rain-soaked fever, I knew you had lied to me. I wanted to forget you by making the physical pain greater than the emotional pain. He turned his head and looked at me with a calm expression, but it made me break down instantly. I'm sorry? These words sound so powerless in the face of that painful past. All I could do was sit helplessly on the ground, repeating I'm sorry over and over. I no longer hate you, Serafina. During the time I was blind after the car accident, I thought a lot about why we broke up. It was mainly because we lacked trust and understanding of each other. The old me was so naive, believing that as long as I loved you deeply enough, we could stay together forever. So, whether you needed it or not, I always assumed I was giving you my love, without ever considering that sometimes too much love can become a burden, making it hard for you to accept. I know you once loved me, and you still like me now, and you haven't forgotten me. I think the same way. He gently wiped away the tears from the corner of my eyes with his hand. But after going through that heartbreaking and painful breakup, I think we both understand many things now. From the very beginning, we weren't meant for each other. So I've chosen to let go of you, Serafina. From now on, let's not meet again. I clutched his hands tightly, my hands trembling, unwilling to let go. Tears kept flowing down, but my pain didn't lessen. I'm sorry, can I make it up to you, Zephaniah? He just shook his head. He suddenly gripped my hands tightly, as if saying goodbye for the last time. Realizing this, a wave of intense fear washed over me. Tears fell suddenly, and my vision cleared. I saw his injured face. When you left me so decisively back then, did you ever think that your departure would take away all the light from my world? You never really believed in me. Did you otherwise, 3 years ago, when I begged you so humbly not to leave, you wouldn't have turned away without a second thought? Seraphina, do I really look like a pathetic clown in your eyes? After saying this, he let go of me and pushed me away. After becoming a doctor, I came to understand a truth. Wounds heal over time, but the scars they leave behind remain forever. You can never make up for what you've taken from me. So, as I said, from now on, we should never see each other again. I watched Zephaniah open the door and leave, thinking about chasing after him, but when I saw another woman's gaze, all the words stuck in my throat, and I couldn't say a thing. I recognized her. She was Zephaniah's rumored girlfriend, Marigold Underwood. I heard she was someone very special to Zephaniah before me. She was so cute. Actually, I never really believed it. I didn't believe Zephaniah would be as happy as he was 3 years ago, giving his all to another girl. I saw him take off his own coat and put it on her, then pretend to be angry and say, I told you to wear more. He even reached out and held Marigold's hand, intertwining their fingers. That's not so bad. At least he's finally moved on from that dark period of his life. After leaving the hotel, I walked aimlessly onto the street. In that moment, I felt lost. Unsure of where to go next, cars zoomed past me on the road, and it felt like no car in the world would ever stop for me again. I waved down a taxi. I decided to go to the hospital after all. This might be the last time I see my brother. From now on, I will strictly adhere to the agreement I made with Zephaniah. I never want to appear before him again. The car came to a smooth stop. As soon as I got out and started walking up the stairs, my phone rang urgently. Sis, Zephaniah really agreed to perform the surgery for me. Though there was now hope for survival, his voice sounded even more subdued. Sis, did you beg him? My silence made my brother feel something was wrong. Before I could speak up, he exclaimed, Does he still remember what happened before? So he's forcing you? Let's go back now. I don't want to have this surgery anymore. I finally couldn't hold back and stopped his reckless behavior. No matter how angry you are, you can't play with your life. He should understand better than me how difficult it is for us to stay alive. After a long silence, his emotions gradually stabilized. He asked me what Zephaniah had told me. I didn't hide anything and told him everything, including the fact that we might never see each other again in this lifetime. Sister, he has no idea what you've been through all these years. Hearing him say that was so unfair. The cold night wind blew, suddenly stinging my eyes. It was so cold. My nose turned red from the cold, and tears kept flowing. My brother might not understand that there's no such thing as fairness in this world. We weren't born with any connection to fairness. Just like how Zephaniah and I met, it was already destined for us to go our separate ways in the crowd. That year, I was going through the most difficult time of my life. When the university admission letter arrived, I also received news that weighed heavily on my heart. My mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, also known as dementia. Those 6 words completely changed the course of my life. After that, my mother lost her job. Caring for the sick took a toll on my father, leaving him exhausted. He considered hiring a caregiver to look after my mother, but due to the high costs, he ultimately abandoned the idea. All the household expenses fell on my father alone, including my brother's and my tuition fees, my mother's living expenses. The pressure he faced grew relentlessly, and this middle-aged man's life became even more difficult. After just 6 months, he found a way to alleviate his stress. Divorce. Seraphina, you have to understand that I'm just an ordinary person with feelings too. Your mother now has dementia and doesn't even know how to use the restroom. Do you have any idea how I survived those 6 months? I had to get up early every morning to clean up the mess she made all over the floor, just after changing her into clean clothes, only to find she'd soiled her pants again. This life feels endless. Do you know what my biggest wish is when I go to sleep every night? I wish it were all just a dream. But I know self-comfort is useless. Don't blame Dad, Seraphina. He really can't go on anymore. I don't blame him. Therefore, I chose to watch him leave home quietly with his suitcase, leaving this difficult problem for me, who is still young. He said this life was too painful for him, but did he ever think about who would suffer after he left? From that day on, my world turned dark and bleak, with only black and white remaining. Zephaniah's appearance was so dazzling, as if he had suddenly illuminated my life. In my first year of college, I volunteered to be class president just to get the 8,000 yuan scholarship for the semester. Zephaniah was someone I knew at the time. He was quite famous at school and not someone to mess with. As class monitor, I had some contact with him and occasionally helped him with his homework anonymously. Later, he must have heard something from somewhere. After everyone had left the classroom and returned to their dormitories, he came back to the classroom, pulled out a chair, and sat down in front of me. On the desk was a homework notebook with his name written on it. "You helped me with my homework for free without letting me know." I was wondering why the teacher didn't call me to the office. It turns out it was you, the kind-hearted one, helping me. "Class monitor, you've done me such a big favor. Let me treat you to a meal." I replied that I helped him with his homework not because I wanted anything in return, but to avoid getting points deducted by the teacher. If I lost points, it might affect my ability to pay tuition fees and even force me to drop out of school. I thought he understood my meaning, but later he kept following me around. "Just to invite me to dinner, Serafina, it's just a meal. Why are you in such a hurry?" Zephaniah has always been impulsive. He never cares what others think. He never considered that we are actually two completely different people. From the very beginning, they should never have crossed paths. After that day, the gossip at school gradually increased, and everyone was talking about it. The school's golden boy, Zephaniah, has developed an interest in the Cinderella-like Serafina. At that moment, I had a bad feeling. I started trying to make myself as inconspicuous as possible, hoping he wouldn't interfere with my life. I even stopped doing his homework for him. Once something starts, it often leads to many other problems. In the girls' restroom, I was blocked at the door by a group of girls. Their leader was someone I knew. She had a crush on Zephaniah, but had been rejected multiple times after confessing her feelings. "I heard Zephaniah is chasing after you. I'd love to see what you've got that makes you dare to compete with me for a guy." Before I could respond, I felt a bucket of icy water dumped on my head. It was December, and the temperature had dropped to -5 degrees. My lips were frozen purple, but they showed no signs of letting me go. They locked me in the restroom for an entire day and night until I fainted from exhaustion. When Zephaniah found out, he was furious. He went straight to the surveillance room, identified the main culprits, and used his family connections to have them expelled from the city. "Zephaniah, you're being too harsh. They should have known there would be consequences when they decided to bully you. But no matter what happens, this is my problem. Can you please stay out of it? I can't just stand by and watch others bully you." Zephaniah always does what he believes is right. I never imagined these events would put so much pressure on me. I just wanted to graduate peacefully, but his constant interference has disrupted all my plans. That day, I finally agreed to start dating Zephaniah. It was just a bet. Little did I know that this bet would haunt me for the rest of my life, trapped in a nightmare called Zephaniah. From the moment I turned 20, when my mother was diagnosed with dementia, I understood everything. Perseverance is an incredibly difficult thing. Zephaniah had expressed his feelings for me many times, so I decided to tell him how I felt. "If you can run 15 laps around the track in half an hour, I'll agree to be with you." After a moment, he said 4 words to me: "Deal." From that day on, he ran laps around the track every day. I've seen exhaustion and thoughts of giving up in his eyes more than once. I've also tried to talk him out of it many times. Zephaniah, running 1,500 meters, 3 laps, takes a normal person 15 minutes. I'm making you do this because I want you to give up, because it's too hard for anyone to achieve. I told him exactly what I was thinking. I hoped he'd stop doing this and not waste his time on someone like me who doesn't deserve it. He deserves better in life. But he stubbornly stood up from the ground, his legs still trembling. Then he took one step at a time, struggling to walk toward me, and said, "Give up. Serafina, I will catch up to you. If I can't catch up to you, I'll write my name backwards." After saying that, he rushed onto the field and began training endlessly, running with all his might. I stood there, watching his back, recalling the words he had once spoken to me. He said, "Serafina, do you know why I feel this way about you? He said, because you're different from other girls. I asked him, how are you different? He looked at me, paused for a moment, then shook his head and said he didn't know either. Zephaniah, how can you not understand? You know my family situation. You've seen it too? I have to work part-time at school and also at a milk tea shop behind the school on weekends. When you say I'm different from them, it's just because you suddenly noticed that in your glamorous world, there are some unremarkable efforts and glimmers of light. I didn't respond and turned away. A week later, I was in class when Zephaniah burst in. The teacher was scolding him, but he pulled me out to the playground and placed a stopwatch in my hand. Seraphina, open your eyes wide and watch carefully. He was acting like a madman, utterly crazy and stubborn. After that day, under his persistence, we began dating. Zephaniah's personality was completely different from mine. He was bold and full of energy, like an eternal flame illuminating the darkness in my life. In that moment, I forgot that darkness never changes just because light appears. It was the final straw that broke the camel's back. It happened in our third year together, just a week before graduation. He gave me a card and told me to use the money inside to live, so I wouldn't have to work hard outside school anymore. He said a lot. Seraphina, your mother has Alzheimer's. You should find a more professional caregiver to take care of her. You still have a long life ahead of you. You should make yourself shine. Now that you're with me, you should slowly enjoy a better life and happily accept everything I'm giving you. Do you understand? A lightweight bank card was forcefully stuffed into my hand. I had put so much effort into getting close to him, yet at this moment, I suddenly felt like a joke, so I couldn't help but smile softly. Then, I calmly placed the bank card on the table. Zephaniah, let's break up. This wasn't the first time I'd said it, but this time I was truly serious. I genuinely wanted to part ways with him. He grew tense, hugging me and saying he didn't want to break up. Every time we broke up, he was like this, always saying he wouldn't leave me. But he never considered that the reason I wanted to break up was because we weren't right for each other from the start. Like the moon and the sun, we could never appear together at the same time. I was like the moonlight that could never see the sun. All I could do was clean up the mess in the darkness, hug myself tightly, and try to fall asleep. Someone like me already has to fight so hard just to survive. How could I possibly have the strength to love someone as dazzling as Zephaniah? But he just doesn't understand this, because he has so much, enough to fill him with love, enough to make his world always shine. This makes me feel small and insignificant when I'm with him. That bank card was just an excuse. It became a good reason for me to do what I've always wanted to do, to release my emotions. I was right. Zephaniah still didn't want to break up. I understood that the best way to make him give up on me completely was to find someone else. I thought that someone as proud as him couldn't accept me betraying him. 3 years have passed and I still remember that day clearly. His face was filled with hatred, his eyes red as blood as he stared at me. He said, Seraphina, I really don't have any feelings for you. This will never change. After Zephaniah left, my life returned to normal. Shortly after graduation, my mother's condition suddenly worsened, and she eventually passed away. On the day my mother died, I didn't shed a single tear. Instead, I felt a sense of release. The pressure I had been carrying for 3 years finally lifted a little. However, I also lost a lot. This city is filled with memories of Zephaniah and me. Memories themselves have no power, but they kept me tossing and turning every night. Unable to sleep, I even developed mild depression. So when Jessamine approached me and asked me to leave, I didn't hesitate for a moment and agreed. As the plane took off, countless memories flooded my mind. At that moment, Zephaniah suddenly pulled out his chair and sat down in front of me. He said, Class monitor, you're such a good girl. Do you want to date this disobedient student? That way, I can protect you. End of main story. Zephaniah's side story. Actually, I don't have a girlfriend. Marigold was just someone I called over to act. I just wanted to see if Seraphina would show any signs of jealousy or sadness. Zephaniah, only the person involved truly knows what they feel. What you did not only hurt her heart, but also made yourself unhappy. What was the point of that? I can tell that she has always been thinking about you. After Marigold left, I did not leave the hotel immediately, but waited quietly in a corner by the entrance for Seraphina to come out. After about half an hour, she finally emerged. However, she did not call a car but walked aimlessly on the street. I followed her, just like 3 years ago, taking care of her. I followed her all the way to the hospital. I saw her holding her phone, not knowing what she was saying. Then, tears welled up in her eyes, but she kept biting her lips to stop them from falling. At that moment, I really wanted to run over and hold her tightly. She was always so stubborn and so strong. She refused to tell me anything about her family. She wouldn't tell me that her mother had Alzheimer's. She didn't mention that her father couldn't accept the truth and decided to leave her mother, choosing to part ways. She also didn't say how she had managed to get through each day over the past 3 years. Life had been so difficult for her. Her life had been so hard. She always chose to endure everything silently. She was so obedient, it broke my heart. Just like the first time I saw her, the sunset outside the classroom shone through the window, casting a warm glow on her. Though she looked so small and fragile, it was as if she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I wanted to rush over and help her. To ease some of her burden. I understand, Serafina. I know you have so many worries right now. Will you leave a little space in your life for me? 3 years ago, I hurt your pride because I was so thoughtless. Can I use this opportunity to say I'm sorry, Serafina? I will always wait for you, forever holding love for you in my heart.